In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Spyder 5 Pro monitor calibrator from Datacolor. As full disclosure, this video isn't sponsored by Datacolor, but we were supplied this copy of the Spyder 5 free of charge to use in this video. So, the Spyder 5 Pro offers an easy to use 5-minute method of calibrating monitors, laptop screens and projectors in a small form factor device that can not only be used to calibrate in these devices, but can also be left connected to the computer to monitor the environmental light and provide feedback to let you choose from 3 available ambient light levels to ensure the best colour representation. Now, calibrating your monitor means that you reduce the difference between the colours you see on screen and what will be printed out by setting optimal brightness levels so you can see the fine shadow detail and highlights in your image. Now, any colour calibration is going to be limited by the range of colours or the colour profile that your monitor can display. More expensive specialist high-end monitors will have an expanded colour gamut that provides a more accurate representation of the image on screen. However, even more affordable monitors will still benefit from being calibrated, and using a device like the Spyder 5 Pro makes the process simple, quick and easy even for novices with no previous experience of colour calibration. So let's take a look at the Spyder 5 Pro, see what comes in the box, and then we can move on to installing the software and running our first calibration. Okay, so let's open up the Spyder 5 and take a little look what's inside the box. First of all, we've got a thank you card. If we take that out, we've got some silica gel. And we've got the Spyder 5 itself. And in the bottom of the box, you've also got the serial number. And there's the Spyder itself. We've also got a decent length USB cable, which we're going to use now to connect up and calibrate one of our monitors. So when you purchase a Spyder 5, they come in various different iterations. The hardware is the same, the only key difference is the version of the software that you purchase it with. So you can see we have the Spyder 5 Express, the Pro and the Elite. These are just feature enhanced versions of the software. So you're going to get the same great color calibration using the hardware, just the different features you're going to get with the different versions of the software. So for this example, we're going to be using the Spyder 5 Elite. So what I've done is I've already downloaded the software and I'm ready to start installing it. So I'm going to go through, install that, and we're going to go through the entire process of setting up and calibrating a monitor. So now that we've finished with that installation, we can go down to the system tray, and if we expand that out, you'll see we now have a new option in there, which is the Spyder utility. If we right click, you can see there's a range of different options available in there for the calibration process, explain the status, and to launch the Spyder Elite, whatever version you're currently using. Like I say, I'm using Elite, so you'll see slightly different option on there. But let's go through now and set the actual Spyder 5 up and start calibrating this monitor. Okay, so now that we've gone through and we've set everything up, we've plugged in the hardware, we've installed the software, let's go through and start the Spyder 5 utility up and go through the process of calibration. Now this is the first time I've started it up, so I'm going to have to go through the nag screen at the beginning and sort of activate the software. So we'll go through that in a moment. So we'll just click, we'll right click and say let's launch the Spyder 5, whatever version you're using, and we'll click on that. That'll bring up a little nag screen that'll tell us welcome to the Spyder 5 so-and-so software, tells you what we can kind of do, and if we want to get rid of that we can just hit the don't show me again. So let's click OK on that, and that'll take us through now and ask us to make sure we've got it plugged into the USB port and go through the process of activating our copy to ensure that we've got a fully licensed version. So let's just click on next. That'll take us through, ask us for a serial number, which I'll put my serial number in a moment, then we'll license it and we'll go through the entire process. So once I put my serial number in, you can see we've got the option to activate via the internet or manually. So we'll do it via the internet and just click on next. I'll fill in my details and we'll carry on from there. We'll now let it run through the activation, and you can see that's activated it. So would you like the application to automatically check software updates? Well, you can choose yes or no on this example, so I'll say yes, so I just know that it's going to be up to date. And are you willing to share calibration information? Well, I'm going to say no because I prefer not to. So that now brings us through to the Spyder 5 calibration option, which will allow us to go through and calibrate our monitor. So you can see it's a pretty simple interface. We've got the option to calibrate my display or printer spooling and mobile tablet simulation. So we want to calibrate the display, so we'll just click on next to take us through to the next option. So you can see we've got the wizard will guide us through the calibration setup. So we're going to say, have you allowed your display to warm up for at least half an hour? Well, I've been using mine for longer than that, so we can check that off. Have you checked that no intense light is falling directly on the display screen? So at the moment I've closed any curtains or blinds in the room, so I'm dealing with a fairly dark room. So I'll say, yep, there's nothing shining on the screen at the moment. To say, have you reset your monitor settings, reset the contrast to default settings, set the color temperature and so on. If your monitor has these options, then I recommend setting those as it requests at this point, just to make sure you're dealing with the optimal settings for calibration. So currently all my display settings are set back to where they should be, the default settings, so I'm going to say yep, that's fine. And I say plug your Spyder into your USB port, not into a hub or a keyboard, so we need to make sure that's plugged directly into the PC itself. Now thankfully they've given us a fairly long lead, so you can connect it straight into the PC. So we say yep, Spyder connection, and we'll say we check that off. So everything now should be in place, ready to start the calibration process. So let's just click on next. Let that go through, and you can see we now have the option to choose the display that I want to calibrate. I'm running a dual monitor setup, so you can see that I've got two options in there. So this is digital 1, so this is the first one, which is fine, so I'll click on next for that. That will then take us through and say what type of display you're currently using. Is it a desktop, laptop, or as a projector? So you can see you're not limited to just being able to calibrate one monitor type of device. You can deal with desktops, laptops, projectors and so on. So you've got a range of different things you can use this for. So it makes it a pretty versatile device. I'm going to be using a desktop, so we'll check on that and click on next to go to the next step. So you can see select the desktop display manufacturer. So you can see it's picked up my monitor type, so I've got a Dell P2414H. Everything's fine in there. If you see anything different, it's not matching yours, obviously choose the relevant monitor to ensure that you're dealing with the right kind of profile, the right kind of hardware. Click on next again. That'll take us through now. So indicate which controls your display offers. Does it offer brightness or does it have the Kelvin presets? So again, if you're not too sure, have a look in the menu setup for your monitor. Check the documentation to find out what method it uses to detect the sort of brightness or the color and so on your particular monitor. Now in my instance, I'm using the brightness control, and you can see this is already checked because it knows what monitor type I'm using. So we'll click on next for that. That'll take us over now and give us the option saying use the new room light switching feature. Click the advanced setting button. On the advanced setting screens, set the room light pop of the room light switching automatic. So what this will do, from my understanding, is the fact that it'll detect the kind of light environment that you're working with, as long as you have the Spyder 5 sort of connected to your system. It'll check the kind of room environment, and then it'll adjust the profile that's going to use, the calibration profile, based upon the light that's in the room itself. So if you're dealing with an evening kind of situation where you have the lights turned off, for example, then it'll give you a slightly different calibration setting to if you're using it in daylight. So we say OK for that. So you can see we've got a full calibration display. The recommended target settings are preferred for your display type. So it's gone through and set these different values. Obviously, if I wanted to change that, I could do by using the drop down option, and I can tweak and adjust this to my own heart's content. We'll leave it as it is now, so we'll test this out of the box. You can see we've got advanced settings, so if we click on that, we can go through and you can see we've got additional options in this. So you can see we've got the option for the room light. So we can say click for room light switch settings. So we've got automatic on and off, so we can choose exactly what we want to do. So if you don't leave your calibrator connected to your system, you may find it's easier to turn those off. Whatever works for you in your specific situation. So we'll say go back to the basic settings, we'll leave it as that. Yeah, we'll say okay, we know about that. We click on next, that'll take us over then, and you can see now we're making sure there's no intense light falling on the screen. We've just got the screen in the environment that we'd be working in. Okay, so this now should start going through and taking some measurements. So you can see we've got please state your computer, so it gives us a message saying what we want to do. So please state your computer. After you click the next button on the screen, the application will take a few measurements and then wait for you to adjust the brightness control. After the brightness is dialed in, the application will continue with the calibration. So you can see it's a pretty easy thing. It's telling you exactly what you need to do. Even shows you where you need to position the Spyder 5 on your screen to get the optimal reading. So if yours is not in the right position, then you just need to adjust to get it exactly where you need it to be. Okay, so I've ensured now that everything is set up correctly. The Spyder 5 is positioned where it needs to be on screen. The counterweight is counterbalanced in the back. The monitor's tilted back slightly so we're getting the Spyder 5 sitting flush against the screen to ensure that we don't get any ambient light being taken in, which will give us a false reading. So what we need to do now is just click on Next and let the Spyder 5 go through and do everything it needs to do to calibrate this monitor. So click Next. That's going to go through now and start measuring everything up for us. You can see it'll go through a range of different colors, whites, blacks and grays and so on, until it gets to the end result where it'll then calibrate it. You can see at the bottom we've got a little meter showing exactly how far we're going in the progress of this, and we'll let that run through now and see what it comes up with at the end. So I'll pause the video, let it run through the calibration process, and then we'll come back and take a look at the next step. So you can see as we go through the process we're going to be asked to do various different things. So at the moment you can see, if we take a look, the target value is 120 and my current screen setup is 171. So we need to now adjust the brightness control on the monitor itself to get as close as possible to that target of 120. So I'm going to go through and do that now, and we'll click on continue once I've done that to update it and go through to the next stage. Okay, I've gone through and adjusted that now, and you can see I've got within 1 point of the default or the optimal value. Now the one thing you will notice when you start to calibrate your screen, and something that really is quite a noticeable difference, is how much yellower your screen will look. Normally most people will sort of tend to veer towards having that nice bright white strong contrast, but the reality is if you're dealing with images, especially photography, and a calibrated print process going through to your printer, then you're going to find that your colors are going to be slightly warmer than what you're used to. So now we've finished that, I'm ready to click continue to go on to the next stage. So we'll click continue, let that carry on now and start measuring the additional settings based upon the adjustment that we've just made to get our white point, our color point, closer to where it needs it to be. Okay, so we've gone through now, and as you can see we've been told it's finished the process, it's completed the measurement, please remove the Spyder from the screen and then click on finish. So I've removed the Spyder and we'll click on finish. And you can see that's now gone through and created our new profile for us. It's given it a name, which we can go through and change that if we want to, and it gives us the option to be reminded when we need to recalibrate the monitor. Now the reason you need to recalibrate your monitor is because as monitors get older, they start to fade, the backlight is nowhere near as good, so you'll tend to find you'll need to recalibrate that every so often to ensure that you're keeping that same color profile in its perfect kind of condition based upon the age of your monitor and the use that it's getting. So we'll set that for my example to 3 months because that's more than enough for me. I'll set that and leave that the name, that's fine. And once that's done, I click on save, saying right, that's now been saved. Your new profile has been saved to your system and automatically use this new profile for your Dell. It's saved to X location. So once we're done, we can click on next. And that then should come through and say, okay, we've now gone through and there's our calibrated view. So we've got the option now to check through and make some adjustments if we need to, or we can switch back to our original view without using the profile. So what I'll do is I'll just switch between the profiled view and the original view. Now obviously it's going to be slightly different because I've adjusted the brightness on the monitor itself, so I'm not going to get it back to exactly the same as it was the way that I was looking at it prior to calibrating it, but it'll give you an example of how it's warmed the tones up. So you can see we've got the option to switch, so this is where it is after it's done the calibration, and if I click on switch, that's where we were to start off with. Now the first thing you'll probably notice is how much cooler the screen looks, how much it's got a bit of a blue tint to it now. Switch back, much warmer colors. We don't have that bright white, which obviously is going to be much better for your eyes, but it's also much closer for, especially when you're dealing with things like skin tones and things along those lines. So you can see we can leave that as it is, we can switch back. We can go through and we've got Spyder proof and we've got Spyder tuners options. We can run this in full screen so we can see exactly what we're dealing with now, so we can get a better representation of those sample images to ensure that we like the color alteration that's been made. I'll just click OK on that, so you can see I can just press the spacebar to switch between the calibrated and uncalibrated views and press any other key to exit. So let's just do that. So this is the calibrated view and this is the uncalibrated view. So you can see there's a noticeable difference. Everything just looks that little bit warmer. So the Spyder tune allows us to physically tune this even more so. So let's just say, for example, we don't really like where this is. We just want to make a couple of tweaks. Or we can click on the Spyder tune and you can see now we can adjust the blue, red, purple, green, the gamma and the brightness based upon the visual way of doing this. So we're not relying upon the spectrum, the proofing of the Spyder 5. We're actually doing this visually. We've also got the option down the bottom for the image. You can see we've got standard set or we've got custom, so we can choose any custom color sort of range of images that we can go through. We can load our own specific one in, so we can use those as a basis for checking our color representation before and after calibration based upon images that we may be more accustomed to using as opposed to the ones that the Spyder 5 actually shows us. So that's pretty cool as well. So there we go. That really is all there is to creating a color calibrated monitor using the Spyder 5 and the Spyder 5 Elite Plus software. What do I think of the Spyder 5? Well, I've used the Spyder 3 in the past, and to start off with, it's quite a big difference what you're used to with an out-of-the-box color sort of that you're going to get with a monitor that doesn't ship with a calibration setting already applied to it. Now, if you've never used any kind of calibration hardware or software, I would highly recommend you pick something up. And the Spyder 5 is a great entry-level kind of piece of hardware that's going to get you up to speed. You can upgrade to the more feature-packed versions of the software. The hardware itself is the same throughout, like I mentioned at the top of the video. So I'd recommend picking up something like the Spyder 5, and I can recommend the Spyder 5 for its ease of use. So if you are new to this kind of thing, the Spyder 5 is going to make the whole process simple and painless. So I'd seriously recommend trying out the Spyder 5. It's a really simple piece of hardware with great wizard-driven software, so even if you're a beginner to dealing with color calibration, this is going to make it incredibly easy for you. Well, I hope you found the video useful. I hope it's given you an insight into how you can integrate the Spyder 5 or any kind of color calibration hardware into your workflow to get great results. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of the new content, reviews and tutorials we add on the channel every single week. And until next time, take care.